Hey, Coach. Zach Nagy with LSU Tigers on SI, to your right. Just want to get your early impressions on Duce Geralds and what he's kind of provided this program so far as an early enrollee and just the impact that you've seen from him over the first couple of weeks of camp.
Yeah, Duce has done a phenomenal job, major impact. I always talk to coaches to think about these guys used to still be in high school, before everybody became mid-years. And for him to come in and play at the level he plays at, but practice the way that he does, and says a lot about his coaching in high school, says a lot about his upbringing with his parents, because that's very unique to be able to handle all that. So he's going to be a great player here, and really enjoy coaching him too because of his just mindset. Saturday night, I think, I was going out on the field for a jog. He's the only one out there, by himself at night, just hitting the sled all by himself, and just speaks volumes to who he is. When no one's looking, what do you do?
Coach, how much better does the defense get with Blake Baker defending the run, going against your offense every day at practice? And are you happy with the installs you've got on both offense and defense at this point in the spring?
We really haven't tackled, so, I don't know that we've made them much better in the run game offensively. But Blake does a great job. Players play really hard for him. He's a great motivator, and so I really like that because it creates competitive atmosphere out there. And be excited when Witt gets back out there, and so we're at full strength. And to really have really highly competitive practices in the run game, especially as we eventually tackle at some point.
Can you just give us an overview of what you see at the safety position after Benefield and Cooley, who looks like he's been a little limited?
Yeah, I think that, we really play with three of them, and then they get stuck back in the same positions based off of formations and coverages and stuff. And so I think the young guys have done a really good job. We're obviously headlined by really the top three, because like I said, the nickel's really just another safety. And so guys have had chances because of us holding some injury, some holding with Ty, to go in there and compete. So it'll be exciting. I think this summer will be really big for young players. We hit them with a lot when we came in, by the way that workouts were, installs, just different. Not saying anything negative before, just we're really different by what we do and how much we put on the players. And so I think the summer slows down for them, and I think that's where you'll see a jump, especially in your young players.
Hey, Coach, while we're out there, Witt's got the earpiece. He's standing with Blake. They're working together. Obviously, he can't be practicing, but just curious what the two are working on. How's that productive right now?
Yeah, they have a great relationship. Like I said, I'm excited to get Witt back out there and get him to work. It's been good, for other guys getting the opportunities, but he and Blake have a really good relationship. But we need him to get back out there and, help us get better offensively by going against him. So I'm really looking forward to that as we, as he gets fully cleared.
Hey, Coach, from the start of spring practice to now, where's one area on the team you've seen the most growth or improvement?
I think, I mentioned the offensive line, with so many new guys, has come along well. I think in general, just the understanding of our expectations, how to practice, how to work, how to prepare, that's come a long ways, and I'm really pleased with that in general of the players. You never, in my opinion, you never know this time of year, okay, do we have enough elite players to make a really deep run? But I do know this, we have really good culture kids that chose to come here have really bought in. The ones that stayed have really bought into the changes. So that's been really good because that's not always easy. So that part's been really good.
Just got a couple, if you don't mind. Just curious, how much better have your quarterbacks gotten? And I saw you talking to Sam today. Just what can he get out of this time while he's not throwing balls?
Yeah, the quarterbacks really had a good week, improvement, and then again today with the lack of turnovers interception-wise. So, 2 Saturdays ago was not very good, as we know, and so, the whole goal is to come up here to show them, to teach them, and for improvement in it. And those guys played a lot better Saturday, and they practiced better today and that Thursday. So that's been really good because it was concerning. Like I said, if we would have had to play at that point, we would have to be a defensive team and protect the football and try to win on defense. But again, we're not playing last week. So that progression's really good. Probably looking at things, it probably was the way it would go as far as offense being behind, with the receiver and quarterback out, but also that being the new system being in place where defense had been here. So,
How about Sam? What do you guys share?
yeah, Sam's really smart, really good approach to the game. He fits really well with us that way, and so he's really elite thinking and processing. So it'll be great when he's fully cleared to be back out there. But he does a really good job because that's not easy. It's hard to mentally lock in when you're not practicing. You see when we hold Ty in periods how great he does over there coaching other players and locked in. Sam's got to do that the whole day long, and he does a really good job of that because it's more than just you guys see. It's meetings, it's walkthroughs in the morning. So really pleased with him that he's doing everything that he can.
You talked about progress. I saw your workout video last night. Obviously, I think you're doing something with your quarterback coach and yoga as well. Is that something that you're pulling over throughout your history, or is that something new to LSU, trying to, I guess, get your staff healthy?
I don't know. I kind of would say, Coach Saban had, the coaching rehabilitation program. We'd go in there and we'd get a stamp so we'd get a job again, I'd like to think we help guys in coaching, but we kind of, over these years with my change in nutrition and exercise and everything, I feel like we've had a lot of people jump into that and we motivate them. I actually had a number of wives over the years thank me because they're like, hey, you're improving my husband, how he's in shape and how he thinks and probably how long he lives. So our new project is T. Martin. So we're on about week 3. And so he's doing good and buying in. And so we had a series of stuff last night, 8 o'clock, and then this morning at 6 a.m. again. So it's kind of fun, especially as coaches come together and don't know all each other. And we have some good before and after pictures, we've put up before. Kevin Smith, my own brother, George McDonald. We've put up Pete Golding's before and after picture before. So some good stories in there. It's actually pretty cool. Okay. We actually had our speaker that's tomorrow. He's here already. And he was around last night, jump in. So, he's actually in shape, Scott Russell and everything. And so he's like, I can do this, whatever. And he made about 3 rounds and he was done.
Coach, right here in the left, in front.
I do think on that, though, we're around our players. And, obviously that doesn't have to be done, in order to win. But I think when your players see that your mindset is that way about everything, the competitiveness, and then they're up here at night doing similar things, or they're out on the jugs, and it's just kind of creates a whole culture of coaches and players all in an elite mindset about being great in all areas of their life.
Coach, I wanted to ask you about Weston Davis. He was here last year, decided to come back. How have you and Charlie and the rest of the staff evaluated his spring?
Yeah, he's done a good job trying to make him more consistent, like any young players, and he has a high ceiling, and he's doing a good job. Wasn't excited that he threw a punch today, so he moved to the second team, but he's done a good job.
Coach, you talked about the wide receivers. I think it was Kellen Moore with the Saints says they should look like a basketball team. Some are taller than others, different sizes, different speeds or whatever. Is that kind of what you look for when you put the guys out there to run the offense?
Not necessarily, and I'm probably in the minority thinking this way, like a lot of things we do, but I just want the best players. And so if we happen to have the starting 3 or 6'3" receivers, then great. If they're shorter, which maybe this year we may be a little bit shorter, the way that it might head, that's fine. I just want the best players, and then we'll coach. Like I said, we're supposed to be really good coaches. We're supposed to have really good systems. And so give me the best players, regardless of size, and then we'll move the system to fit them.
As far as the offensive line, it looks like you are rotating a lot, guard, tackle. Maybe you could just go through what either your or the coach's philosophy is and what you're doing on the offensive line using this time.
Yeah, just trying to find the best players. And I think when you're coming new, like we are to the program, but especially on this side of the ball, I think that's important to look at guys at different spots. Not only for like what is their best spot, but then when you get jammed up in some seasons, one of the big things in college football is luck within a season of injuries and out of your control. And you'll have some really good years. Last year we had an elite year of health and low injuries and almost the same starters almost every week. And then you're going to have some years where it's not going to work like that. And like the year before. So the more you can move them around and see what they do, even if it's not their best thing, so that when those injuries happen, we don't now all of a sudden. That's why we do a lot of that.
Coach, you had a big recruiting weekend this past weekend. Can you talk about the difference between recruiting as a head coach when you've been here 3 days versus 6 months later, and moving forward, high school versus portal? What are you looking for? Obviously, this year is one out of normalcy, but what are you looking for, high school versus portal, moving forward?
You always ask me like multiple questions. I go to one and then I forget the next one. So, okay. The first one's a really good question about recruiting after 3 days here and now recruiting now. It feels completely different. And, I feel like now we're recruiting. I actually just had this conversation with the staff. I feel like now we recap the weekend and we're at full strength. Everybody's here. We know the people in the building. We have all our coaches here. They get to see practice also. So it's like now I'm really feeling the recruiting at full strength, and then combining what we do with the branding of LSU and then the response, which has been extremely high level from the recruits and their families, which has been great. When we first got here, we're here a couple days. We don't even have a full staff. We're trying to sign the high school class without even having a full staff. And then even going into the portal and having our coaches, leading up to that, going back and forth and not here and then at the other place. Like, that was really challenging. And so a coach said last night, he goes, Coach, but remember, you weren't full strength and still signed this #1 portal class, of elite talent. So that was pretty exciting to think about. Like, we were able to do that and we weren't even at full strength. We didn't even know the building and what we were even selling a little bit too, of everything. We didn't have a feel for, we could sell our systems. We didn't have a feel for Baton Rouge. And now to have the feel for everything and to be able to sell it, it really feels great. I walked back in the staff meeting Sunday after all the recruits were gone. And I'm like, for all these parents and players to come in here and say what they said today, really just excites me about the combination of LSU and us together.
Lane, what can you share about what's ailing Cooley? And also haven't seen Marcus Satterwhite the last couple of practice. Just what's his deal?
Yeah, so, we're new to this. We're never going to break down injuries, with you guys on that. They'll just either be out or not. And so I won't really get into that, and that's just part of our policy. Hope you guys understand that. Yeah, we're not going to say anything before it, and now they have in place the injury report, and so you'll be able to see that. And you'll hear me say a lot of times, we expect him to be back.
What improvements in progress would you like to see from the offense as spring ends, and how do they continue that once spring practice ends, on their own or however?
Yeah, there's a ton of work to still be done there. Very pleased really in the last week, like what I said about the progression of the offense, and again, just everybody feeling each other out, players, coaches, new coaches, everything together. And it was very concerning early on offensively. I think you guys could probably tell that in my responses. And so it's been really good. And we're headed the right direction, but there's still a ton of work to do.
This is just really broad based, but do you feel the care level? Like, I mean, we're getting to know you, you're getting to know us kind of thing. Like, do you appreciate this much attention and questions? And like, do you feel that care level? Like you said, when you're out and about in Baton Rouge, like, are you getting more comfortable with kind of being Lane in Baton Rouge now?
Yeah, I actually had a former player today who moved back here after playing in the NFL a long time, and he said to me, he's like, okay, we went to 6 different places. Actually, he was here with Saban, and then the Dolphins with Saban. And he's like, we moved back here because the people here. And that does now make sense to me. Not to use it again, it's different. It's just a different feeling. It's like it's a combination, and I'll get criticized, I'm sure, for this. It's like the deep South, nice and caring, with a little bit of edge too. An edge, I mean, a passion of like wanting to win and how can we help win, and so it's unique. But again, like the recruits feel that. Like in these Sunday meetings when I sit with them and they're on the couch and the parents and they talk about how much they enjoyed the town and the people at restaurants coming up to them and the diversity, and so I'm starting to get it.
Could you talk a little bit about Winnie Watkins and his maybe comfort in the offense? Because it looks like maybe that familiarity is really helping him take kind of an early lead here.
Yeah, I think obviously when players come from systems no different than the NFL, when they, sign them in free agency from the last place they were coaching at, a lot of times usually defensive or offensively when a coordinator moves or becomes a head coach, that really helps. Now, hopefully the other guys, they'll progress a little bit slower and catch up to that, because obviously Winnie has a head start, but it is really good. It's really good to, part of bringing TJ here was not just the player that he is, it was that he knew my expectations in the locker room, how things are done, especially on the other side of the ball. And so to have that, so when players are asking, like, okay, hey, how can we do this? He can say, hey, you got to trust the process. This is how it works. You're going to eventually figure it out. It just may not make sense now. So when he's younger, but he gives you some of that in the receiver room. But that went in a lot to decisions take, much like they do. You see in the NFL when somebody gets a job and they bring the middle linebacker, when they become a head coach and sign them in free agency, because they understand what you're trying to get done. All right, guys, thank you.